So are you airbrushing and you're trying to find a compressor that's going to handle the larger jobs, or potentially even using a mini spray gun? Well, then the Sparmax TC 620X is definitely the compressor for you. I'm going to show you what comes in the box. Let's go ahead and unbox it now. So it's very well packaged. What you do get is you get the airline. So this has the 1/8 inch connector on both sides. So that way you can easily hook up any airbrush. That's pretty much compatible with all different airbrushes. Okay, so also in the kit comes, obviously you've got the instruction manual, quick troubleshooting guide, but you can see here we've got 3 different adapters. Now, one for the Pash, one for the Badger, and the Aztec. So what these are, they're just the adapters that you would screw onto the end of your airline. So obviously the braided airline that you get with the compressor, you would just screw this onto there, and then that part will screw onto your airbrush, and that way you can run these brands as well as the Iwatas, and majority of the other airbrushes that are available run the Iwata thread, which is the traditional 1/8 inch, so you shouldn't have any other compatibility issues. And you do get 2 of these hoses, and they are braided airlines, so that just offers a bit more protection, which is great. They're still nice and lightweight as well, so they won't get heavy when you're airbrushing. These little guys here are just some airbrush holders that you get with it. So you get 2 of them, and you can see they're just the little acrylic one, and the airbrush just sits in like so. Pulling the compressor out. Now they are a decent weight. They're about 10.4 kilo or 23 pounds. Now this compressor is all you're going to need. So if you want to get into airbrushing but you want to do some larger scale murals, let's say you want to do large canvases, but you also want to do fine detail work or painting miniatures, it doesn't matter. This compressor can handle everything that you need it to do. It's got a 2.5 litre tank, which is the biggest and most important thing. So once I get all the packaging out, but you can see the tank there. You got your little release valve. Release the pressure once you finish airbrushing for the day to remove the air pressure out of the tank. It's just a good way to maintain the longevity of your compressor. It already has a moisture trap regulator built in, and you can see on the top here you've got your little gauge, and I'll show you how to set that up for all different PSIs and what it relates to with your airbrushing. And then on the back here, remove some more of this packaging. You've got the twin piston motor, so that's what's going to give you the power, and we've got an airflow on this one of about 23 to 32 litres per minute, so that's about 0.81 to 1.14 CFM, and it's a 1/6 horsepower as well. It's also great that it's got these rubber feet, so that way you can sit it on a bench and it's not going to move around when you've got it running. These are fairly silent too, so that way if you are airbrushing at home or in an apartment and you don't want to upset your neighbours, then this is definitely the type of compressor that you should use, rather than something like a piston type compressor or workshop compressor, something that you'd see at Bunnings or Total Tools. They're a lot louder, and yes, you can use them for airbrushing, but you would need to have them outside, away from where you're painting, in a garage. And obviously think about your neighbours if you are going to set something like that up. The beauty of this is obviously it comes with everything for airbrushing, so specifically designed. It's also plug and play, so you don't need to run off, say, 3-phase power or anything like that. You just got your normal 240 volt plug. The handle here to make it easy to carry. So let's go ahead and pop these holders in. You can feel there's like a little rubber grommet there, so you can spin them around, but that sits in nicely. And that's also great because if you do happen to spill some paint on the compressor, that can be easily cleaned without, you know, getting all the paint dripping down into the main parts of it. So you just push them in like so. Okay, so let's go ahead and hook it up so you can hear how loud the compressor is, or how quiet it is. So using these airlines, like I said, you get 2 of them. Now the reason they give you 2 is because you can definitely run 2 airbrushes simultaneously off this unit. So they screw in onto the 1/8 fitting like so. You can just do them finger tight, you don't have to be too strong with it. If you are gonna use something like multi-grips to tighten it, then just use something with a Teflon coating so you don't scratch all of that. Now you can see here this has like a little plug. See if I can undo that. Now that's just obviously to stop the air if you just want to run one airbrush. So for instance now if I screw that back on and then flick the compressor on, you're going to hear that it's leaking air, right? Because I haven't got an airbrush hooked up. So for the purpose of just to show you how loud it is, I'm just going to kink that hose. Yep, so the little bleeder valve as well takes a little bit of pressure to push out. And you can see here on the gauge that we're filling up the tank now with the air pressure. So the good thing with a unit like this, like I said, with a 2.5 litre tank, you can be airbrushing away and it's not going to run all the time. It's going to fill that tank up to the PSI that's needed. And then when you use the airbrush, so say for argument's sake, I start to airbrush and you can hear, once it drops down past a certain PSI, the compressor will kick back in. But it's not a continuous run compressor, and that's important, because that way you're not going to get overheating issues and you can tackle those jobs that are larger. And you can use an LPH80 mini spray gun with an E2 air cap, an HVLP spray gun. You can definitely use that for something like this because it doesn't require the sort of airflow that a traditional spray gun would need. To regulate your air pressure, right, so this is obviously your regulator and moisture trap. So moisture trap means that as you're painting for a long period of time, you are going to build up some moisture. It's just inevitable. And you'll see that build up through this little glass window here. And the best way to release it is you just press down on this and you can hear that's pushing out some air, and that'll push out any of that moisture. There is a filter in here as well to trap all of that, so none of those nasties will get into your air and contaminate your paint. Now, to adjust your PSI, you can see here you've got a locking nut, so you need to lift this up and you turn it clockwise to increase the air pressure, or anti-clockwise to reduce the air pressure. So for general airbrushing, I tend to run at about 30 psi, which is about there, around about 2 bar. When you're happy, press it down and it'll click. Now you know that it's set. So that way you've always got that PSI running through to your airbrush, and then depending on which airbrush you use, that will also have a different amount of airflow. So something like the Neo, for example, an HP.CS runs a lower PSI, so even if you're running at 30, it'll sound like it's about 20 PSI. So then you may want to turn this up a bit to say 40 or 45, whereas a Micron can run at 18 to 20 PSI if you overthin your paint. So then you would drop this down again to suit that application. So depending on what airbrush you're using, adjust your PSI accordingly. So let's go ahead now and we're going to hook up one of the most popular airbrushes in our range, which is the Iwata HP.CS Eclipse, this one here, and we'll put it through its paces, and you can see how the compressor can handle using a 0.35mm at a reasonably high PSI for general airbrushing. So let's go ahead and put some paint in the color cup, and you can just pour that in. That's plenty of paint, we don't need more than that. Seal it up. Again, always make sure that breather hole is clear. And the other thing I like to do is remove the air cap. So again, pressing down for air, you can see nothing's coming out because it's a double action airbrush, and then pulling back for paint. So the more I pull back, you can see I can really get a broad spray. Or if I move in close, pull back a little bit, and I'm able to get finer detail. And you can even go finer than that if you want to do some fine dots. And we're not going to get any intermittent spray either, because this compressor is a twin piston motor, so it's not a diaphragm pump. And the diaphragm pump compressors, or a smaller type compressor, sometimes they can pulsate the air and then you get an uneven spray pattern. And you can hear that compressor only kicks in when needed, so it's not running continuously, which is also great for the longevity of the compressor, and it's going to reduce any moisture buildup as you're painting for hours and hours and hours.